Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of It's Your Grade. This is part 2 of polyatomic ions. And in this video, I'm going to recap polyatomic ions part 1, and then we're going to talk about polyatomic ions that have a hydrogen atom. So in the first video, we learned that polyatomic ions that end in 8 typically have more oxygen than ite, and it's usually one more oxygen. So 8 polyatomic ions, they 8 more oxygen than ite. And in this case, the charge stayed the same. So again, as the example, that would have been if you had NO3 nitrate, had a negative charge, one less oxygen would be NO2, this would be nitrite. And I wanted to compare this to the difference when you have polyatomic ions that have hydrogens. So polyatomic ions with hydrogen. So in this case, what I want you to remember is that for every hydrogen that's added, um, the charge becomes more positive. So an example of that would be phosphate. So we didn't talk about phosphate in the last video, so we get to learn another new one here. Phosphate ends with ATE, has PO4 minus 3 as the charge. And of course, if you were thinking about phosphite, this would be PO3 minus 3. But we're talking about the hydrogen atoms is what I want to focus on. So if you have HPO4, so the number of oxygens stayed the same, but we've now added a hydrogen in front of the phosphorus. What we have done, we have added a +1 charge because you can think of hydrogen like a +1. You know that from your periodic table. So we've added a +1 to a -3, which means we have a -2 left. And then this is known as hydrogen phosphate. Pretty simple. You can add another hydrogen for phosphate, and you have H2PO4. So if we were to think back to the original phosphate, which we had a -3 charge, we've now added 2 hydrogen atoms. So that's a +2 that we've added to a -3, which means this is now a -1. And this is all very simple. So dihydrogen, di for 2, hydrogen, phosphate. You can do this for carbonate as well. So carbonate is CO3 minus 2. If we added an H, this would be known as hydrogen carbonate. So that's HCO3. What's the charge? We've added a +1 to a -2. So the charge is -1. Hydrogen carbonate is also known as bicarbonate. You may see it referred to as, which is actually just baking soda. Other examples, sulfate, SO4 minus 2. And then you can have, if we added an HSO4, this would become a -1, and that's known as hydrogen sulfate. Can also do this for sulfite. So sulfite is SO3 minus 2. So going back to our 8 versus ite, we have 4 oxygens for sulfate with a minus 2 charge, and sulfite has SO3 with a minus 2 charge. So when it's just simply 8 versus ite, the charge stays the same. But when you add hydrogen, the charge becomes more positive because you're adding positive hydrogen atoms. So in this case, we would have hydrogen sulfite, which is known as HSO3 minus 1. And that's all I have for you today. Just an overview of polyatomic ions and some little tips to help you remember them. I hope you all are well. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you'd like to see a particular topic in these videos. And happy studying, everyone.